Next up, we have a very interesting session with Sanjay Arora, founder and CEO of Shell's Advertising. An expert in strategic planning, brand building, digital marketing, and strategic brand communications, Sanjay founded and promoted Shell's Advertising in 1987. A recipient of the Vocational Excellence Award of Rotary International, his keen interest in academics and over 20 years of practical experience have made him a much-in-demand faculty at various management institutes, with brand management, advertising, and public relations being his key subjects. Sanjay is also a respected human resource and corporate trainer, conducting training programs and workshops on leadership, creativity, team building, motivation, and strategic brand building. Today, as he joins us this afternoon, he will share his insights on maximizing profits with the power of branding. After his keynote, we will have Pooja Pathak, founder and managing director at Media Mantra, joining him on stage for a fireside chat. Sanjay, may we have you here, please?
A very good afternoon, every one of you. And first of all, I think, Amit, we know each other on Twitter for about 15 years now. And I guess because he fell behind as far as Instagram was concerned, so he wanted to get even with me and therefore placed me right after a very hearty lunch. So what I was saying was, brand Krishna was built by Sanjay. You don't know anything about what Krishna said. Now, we'll need to go on a small tour. Are you prepared? So tighten your seat belts, straighten your backs, please. All right? And let's go. What's that? Coke. Very good. What's Coke? What's Coke's competition? Pepsi. Everyone says it. I didn't expect marketers to say that. Because you drink Coke's competition. Decided water was competition, and they've managed to replace water with every meal in America, as we all know. People sit there with a can, glass, whatever of Coke rather than of water. So they managed to do that. And that's why the moment we define our competition is the moment we define the scale of our opportunity. That's the learning there. Okay, what's that? So each of these slides is a long story, but since we have 30 minutes, I'm going to skip all of that. That? Disney. What do we get back from Disney when we come from the Disney world? Experiences. Though Indians are known to get, when you enter an Indian home and go to the loo, you will see shampoo from Hyatt, soaps from ITC. So we need known to get far more than just memories and experiences. Anyways, that, who is he? Ronaldo, wonderful. And Harvard, yeah, they didn't accept me. So now you know what, I'm getting back at them also. And Behenji. And once I put up this at a management institute and they said Audi. That's how, management students are. And, yeah, good. Quickly. Oh, right? So, any common thread running through all of them? They're all brands. Since मैं brand पे बोलने आया हूँ तो इतना तो बोल ही सकते हैं ना? They're all brands. So let's understand कि क्या होता है ये. So my topic for today, when Amit asked me, I said, let's talk about the stuff that PR guys are interested in. Paisa, right? So, and this is also what our clients are interested in. So we can make them bite this, we can do anything. So my subject is, do strong brands actually lead to profits? Is there enough data about it? Let's find out. So this is a screenshot I took about a month or two ago from Big Basket. It says 1 kg of salt, 25 rupees. Have you ever been, I'm sure you wouldn't have because knowing the profile of the audience, आप कभी commodity बाजार नहीं गए होगे ना? मंडी बोलते हैं जैसे इंडिया में. गए हो क्या? नमक कितने रुपए किलो होता है वहाँ पे? Any idea? अभी आंसर पता चल जाएगा मुझे. हाँ? 7 or 8 rupees a kg, give or take. Okay, so that's the price of salt. okay, 7 or 8 rupees what I found out in Nagpur. I'm from Nagpur, maybe Delhi mein aate thoda mehenga ho jata hoga. Okay, but suddenly it wears this red and orange and black overcoat, has a name Tata emblazoned against chest, and it becomes how much? Kitna times? 3 times. If you think that's a lot, there's another thought coming. Look at that. Let that sink in. Okay, how many times is that? No, 30 times the original price of salt. And do we even come to know when we are आप सबके घर में table पे catch पड़ा होगा, I'm sure. Do you even come to know that you're buying something at 300 times the original price? Whatever. Iodine is सब salt में. Indian government का mandate है salt में iodine होना. It's not about the iodine thing. It's about a lot more. It's about changing the form factor. It's about convenience. It's about finding a consumer pain point and then be able to do it in such a way that you don't even realize, because then you never compare it in terms of a kilo. You look at it something completely different. That's the whole idea. But then you can charge 3. Incidentally, I did a reel on this, and the DS group sent me a legal notice from Delhi saying, actually I was doing them a favor, otherwise I charged 2 lakh rupees to do a reel, but they sent me a legal notice because they said I was demeaning them. Whereas the entire reel was actually praising them, that they understood branding so well that they've been able to sell something for 30 times the original cost. And that too, the most common commodity. Except for water, that is the most common commodity. They've been able to do that, right? But then of course, I withdrew that reel because I didn't want to, get in touch with a lawyer in Delhi, spend another 5 lakh rupees defending me. In fact, my lawyer in Nagpur told me there's no way that you can lose this. Because you're an educator, you've done it as a case study. In any case, it's the truth. But then you will have to pay someone 5 lakh rupees to represent you in the courts in Delhi, which I didn't want to do, of course. So Peter Drucker, the father of modern management, said this long ago. The 2 most important functions of a business are innovation and marketing. Everything else is a cost. So whether it's the HR guys, whether it's the financial guys, the chartered accountant, they hate. I do this session at even the Chartered Accountants Association's national meeting, and they hated me for that. But everything else is a support system. There are only 2 things. When does a business happen? When do we say business happens? When there is a transaction. All right? Some money is exchanged for some product or service. And that is what marketing is. And for that to happen in a continuous manner, you need to constantly innovate. Because what was good enough yesterday is not good enough today. So innovation and marketing are the only 2 pillars that bring in everything for a business. Everything else, of course we need them. Without good HR, you will not have good people. Without good financials, you will not have good people or cash flows happening. They are important, but they are not the business. The day your innovation stops, you become extinct like a dinosaur. The day you don't know how to market, even good. Often enough clients come to me and, not only me, but otherwise also, we've got a wonderful product. I say, but perfect, ready to fail now. Because a good product is an entry point to a market. That is where 90% products fail. It is after you've got a good product and decide what to do with it, that will decide whether it's going to be successful or not. That's the key part. So do these complicated concepts work? Let's look at that. So this is the most important slide of the day, in fact, or a couple of them also. So this is a study done by Standard & Poor's 500, the people who've got their brand with the US stock exchange, financial guys. They've been analyzing data from the world's top 500 companies listed on the stock exchange from 1975 to 2018. And of these 500 largest companies of the world, so they include all kinds of companies like Caterpillar of the world, General Mills, General Motors, etc., and the soft companies like Google, etc. What they found was, in 1975, 17% of the value of a company was off balance sheet. That means intangibles. What are intangibles? That you add up all that the company owns, the factories, the plants, the machineries, the transport, the raw material, the process, material in process, in the pipeline, etc., they add up to 83%. 17% is untraceable. Where does this untraceable money lie, or wealth lie, or value lie? Anyone? Here. Yeah, we call it reputation now, but now it's called brand. So only 17% then in 75, top 500 companies used to be intangibles. Move to 2018, and 84% is intangible. Imagine the Shirshasana that has happened. Right? Only 16% is tangible on the world's 500 largest companies. In fact, I actually stumbled upon something much more recent then, and this is 2020, COVID year. 90% is intangible. Just let that sink in. 90% top 500 companies in the world, not smaller ones. And hard companies at that, engineering companies, industrial equipment companies, etc., etc. 90% doesn't exist in the balance sheet. That is how important brands are. Okay, and today we know companies like Unilever, etc., they own a portfolio of brands. In fact, common people don't even know Unilever, and they don't bother about that. They know the brands, right? So that is the business that we are in, and we should know that what we contribute or bring to the table for companies. Most of the times, when we are questioned, we don't have answers as to what value we bring. This chart tells them what is the real value we bring to the table, all right? I don't know how many of you heard of this Marlboro story. Let me look at the time also because, okay, we have 20 more minutes, great. So this, who owns the Marlboro brand? Anyone? Philip Morris and Company, right? So it was an UK company, it was a tobacconist in UK, but bought over by an American, shifted to America, then set up a large corporation, listed company, and one day, and I don't know how many of you are here are aware, Marlboro started off as a feminine cigarette, right, for the ladies then, in 60s, even then ladies used to smoke there. And we in our college days used to get scandalized if we saw a girl in the college smoking. So anyway, that's a long story. But the point I'm trying to make is, started off as a feminine brand, and then was not doing well, and then they got in touch with an advertising agency which said it will never do well as a feminine brand, we need to make it a macho brand. And that's when the cowboy campaign happened and all that. And since the 1970s, it's been the largest selling single brand of cigarettes in the world. Since then, 70s. So one day, when the CEO of Marlboro was sitting in the office, the secretary buzzes that there's someone from Texas to see you. Okay, all right, 8 in the morning. They start early. So 8 in the morning, this guy is there to see him. So he says, usher him in and let us have some coffee also. Comes in. Now, for those of you who know America a little, Texas was where crude was found. People got wealthy very soon. It became the Saudi Arabia of America. And Texans are very rich. So that's why what happened. We are coming to that. So they sit across this table, coffee served. And this Texan says, you know what, we've been toying about for buying over your company. Now, he gets a shock, the CEO of Marlboro, Philip Morris. People come to him for, हमारा vendor registration कर दो, हमको distribution दे दो यहाँ का. And this guy comes early in the morning, we want to buy over your company. Soon he gets out of the shock, flips across an envelope, makes some calculations, says $5 million. So this $5 million back then was a big amount. So he said, look, the Texan says, let me go back, work out with my financial guys and come back to you with a counter offer. Fair enough. As promised, next week he's back, same table, same coffee. He said, look, we've had a discussion internally, the Texan says, we don't want to buy over the entire company. What we really want to buy over is this rights to this red and white pack and the name Marlboro on it. The word branding, etc. was still to arrive on management scene. In fact, when I did my MBA in 85, I'm ancient incidentally, okay, they brought me out of the archives. So Kotler, the Bible of marketing, had one paragraph on branding, just that. And today we get people as interns who are doing the 3-year graduation in branding, then they'll do a 2-year post-graduation, then they'll do a PhD in branding and all that. So the subject is expanded like that. But anyways, so this guy, Texan says, we want to buy over the rights to this. He didn't use the word brand then. So how much would that be for? This time around, the CEO doesn't even flip an envelope. Pat comes the reply, $50 million. Now this is the time for Texan to get shocked. He says, when I came to buy over the company, you said $5 million, and now that I want to just buy over the rights to this pack, you're saying $50 million. It is then that the CEO gets up, they say, goes back, there's there are curtains, draws all the curtains. Through the glass, you could see all the plants churning out millions of cigarette sticks, packaging, etc. going on, picks up dramatically a pack of Marlboro and says, look, gentlemen from Texas, take away this, and all that you see there is ashes. Okay, leave this with me, take all that, I can build all that in 3 years. Without this, all that is there. The value, gentlemen, doesn't lie there. The value lies here. That's the story of a brand. Where does the value lie? Value lies in what the customer asks for, not what we manufacture. The customer doesn't go to a pan thela wala and says कि मुझे cigarette दे दो. He goes and says, Marlboro चाहिए. So value lies what the customer asks for and not what we produce. Let's try and make things a little simpler. So what is a brand? It is not all these colorful logos, symbols, etc. that we see, and we brand designers charge a bomb from companies. ask them, we'll do this for you, 50 lakh, 1 crore, whatever, right? It's not that. These logos are not the brand. How many of you, okay, all of you all would have done your 10th science, so to sabko malum hoga. What does AU stand for? Gold, right? If I write AU on a piece of paper and say 10 grams and give it to you, ma'am, will you give me 80,000 rupees? Why? It's gold, you just said AU is gold, right? Why won't you give it to me? Because this AU on the piece of paper represents something where the value lies, right? Similarly, all these colors, symbols, fonts, etc. represent something. They are not the value. They represent the value which lies elsewhere. That elsewhere is what we call the brand. It is not in these symbols. So we've seen hazar companies doing well with bad typography, bad logos, bad brand identity. Yes, you can do better probably. That's what we'd like to believe and therefore charge a client. But that is not where the value resides. Value resides somewhere else. These jokers just symbolize that value. Clear? So these are not the brands. And brand is not advertising either. And I make it a point to bring up this slide since I come from the world of advertising, spent 40 years there. They got hold of my old biodata, so it's not 20 years, 40 years. And no, that's perfectly right. So therefore, I make it a point to bring across this slide. Most people confuse branding with advertising also. We are a small component in a very huge machine. Advertising is a very small component. There have been brands built without advertising also. So let's not confuse the two. A brand based only on advertising would be like a scarecrow. Now even birds aren't scared of the scarecrow anymore, like the modern birds, right? So it'll be lifeless, soulless. Whereas a brand has a soul. We have to nurture it. Don't nurture it, it'll die, etc., etc. So what we see is only as the proverbial tip of the iceberg. What actually the entity is, the brand, bulk of it lies below the surface, which we don't see happening every day. Every consumer transaction, every touch point, all that is brand living. What we see is only the tip of the iceberg. Keep working on that only, most of the times. So I have a very interesting formula. I say brand is equal to product. Of course, when I say product, I mean the offering. Okay. And you start off as a product, but soon you need to add something to it which makes it a brand. So very quickly, let me take a peek, 13 more minutes. All right. Very quickly, let's take an example and understand this very. ये बहुत बार बोलते हैं हम added value, पर added value है क्या? कभी किसी ने समझाया नहीं. So I'll say a watch and then I'll say a Rolex. Are they the same thing? Yes or no? Okay, let's get to the logic of it. So every watch shows you time. Every Rolex shows you time. Ideally, there should be watches, right? No. But a watch aspires to grow up and become a Rolex. Every Rolex is a watch, all right, but not every watch is a Rolex. So that means something has been done to a watch to make it a Rolex. Clear? You walk into a Rolex store today and say, look, I want to buy a Rolex watch. My starting point is somewhere around 7 lakh of rupees approximately, and you've got that kind of money with you, and they'll have you seated, they'll give you coffee, etc. And they say, how many Rolexes do you have already? You say, no, this is my first one. Oh, we're so sorry, we're not selling currently to new customers. We have to still suffice the old customer list, and we'll put you down on a list, and we'll give it to you when we open up the new list. That's Rolex. You have 7 lakh rupees in your pocket, and they won't give you a watch. Scarcity. So the point I'm trying to make is, if every watch were a Rolex, and if every Rolex was a watch, things would be different. So every watch is not a Rolex, but every Rolex is a watch. Now, that means they've done something to the watch to make it a Rolex. So there are only two ways you can change things. One is to take something out of it. Did we take anything out of a watch? Nahi nikala. Watch to hai abhi bhi time dikhati hai, right? Then, that means there is only other possibility to change something is to add something to it. So what did they add to the watch so that it became Rolex? Yeah, what did they add to a watch that made it a Rolex? They didn't add anything to the watch. The change they made was here. Okay, so for adding something of value to the product, you don't necessarily do something to the product. You do something to the consumer. Exactly. That's where the billion-dollar industry becomes, And therefore, we say added value क्या है? उसका अलग equation है. That's reason plus emotion. So of course, there are products that build only on rationale, logic, etc. But those are very few, and they won't last long because people will copy you. The only terrain that you've got left is emotion. And this story is the story of emotion. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. All of us know 80s, Pepsi challenge. Pepsi went to town in America, every mall, every place, they were doing a blind test. Okay, and Pepsi was leading. Whenever a blind test live would happen, they would have live telecasts happening, and 2 plain classes, 2 colas, people would drink, they said this one is better, and that would turn out to be Pepsi. Coke was getting budgered, totally. So what did Coke do? Went back to the drawing table, reformulated the Coke. Tested it to 2 lakh people, 2 lakh plus people. हमारी market research होती है 500 लोग, 1000 लोग, बहुत हो गया तो. ठीक है? Even our exit polls are done with about 10,000, 15,000 people. All right, that's the sample size. 2 lakh plus people, it's on records. Okay, 2 lakh plus people said the new Coke is better than not only the old Coke but also Pepsi. And with a lot of confidence and fanfare and a huge budget, the Atlanta giant launches the new Coke. What happens? There is absolute mayhem in the marketplaces. People are pouring the crates of new Coke down the sewerage, burning things. 8,000 letters, hate letters reaching, email nahi tha us samay, letters reaching Coke headquarters. Shut this out. Give us our old Coke. Give us our old Coke. What happened? All those 2 lakh people said the new Coke is better. Then what happened? So the answer couldn't be found then, but later when fMRI technology was developed, it was found that when you make people drink a blind, of course, some areas of the brain called the taste centers light up, and therefore when taste centers light up, Pepsi is better. But when you label the 2 and then test them again with the same person, along with the taste center, another center gets lit up, which is the emotional center. And therefore, when the emotional center lights up, the taste center gets blinded. All right? And that's the reason why the new Coke failed. 72 days was the life of the new Coke. Old Coke had to be brought in, the CEO had to resign, and lots of other stuff happened. So that tells us that emotion is far stronger than reason. Reason tells me new Coke is better, but emotion doesn't listen. All right? So, in fact, just quickly one statistic. So this is Gerald Zaltman. He wrote in the Harvard Business Survey. There's a lot of good stories there, but I have to skip all of these today. 95% of purchase decisions are controlled by the subconscious. You don't even know. So एक छोटा सा story मैं आपको देकर खत्म कर देता हूँ. Is when this in a supermarket in UK, wine was being tested. Meaning what they did was alternate days they would play German music, alternate days they would play French music. And surprises, surprises, when they played German music, 3 times more German wine sold, and when they played the French music, 3 times more French wine sold. You were amazed? But that is not the surprise. Then they surveyed these customers to figure out, did you listen to the German music and therefore bought the German wine? And did you listen to the French music and therefore bought the French wine? People said, what music? They weren't paying attention to the music at all when they were buying. That means that music was working on them subconsciously. And that is why we get this. 95%. So whatever you bought, you may have reasons after that. Post-purchase bolte hain, rationalization. Usko. Your subconscious made you decide, I want to date this girl. All right? You may have 1,000 reasons after that. And last story, and we finish for this. Because this story is special to me because it comes from my town. All of us have had polo. एक stick कितने का आता है? $10. I'll keep it short. बड़ा वाला आता है, छोटा वाला 5 रुपए का, बड़ा वाला 10 रुपए का. Anyway, कितना mints होता है उसके अंदर? 10, right? एक कितने का हुआ? 1 rupee each. Now go to a पंसारी भाई, आपको पंसारी वर्ड भी नहीं मालूम होगा आपको, आई एम सॉरी, किराना वाला. ऑल राइट, गो टू अ स्मॉल गली का स्मॉल किराना वाला एंड आस्किंग भैया पिपरमिंट देना. आपकी पिपरमिंट 25 पैसे की आएगी. कितने की आएगी? 25 पैसे की. तो फिर हम कितना टाइम ज्यादा पैसा दे रहे हैं? 4 टाइम्स. किसके लिए दे रहे हैं? अब यहां पे ब्रांड से भी ज्यादा क्या इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, बाहर का जो सर्कल है व्हाइट वाला वो 25 पैसे का है. व्हाट आर यू रियली बाइंग? 75 पैसे किस चीज? थिंक अबाउट इट, थिंक अबाउट इट. द मिंट विद द होल. सो मिंट 25 पैसा, होल 75 पैसा. You fill it up and I won't give you a single penny. In fact, now we come to the crux of the story, which is this is manufactured, this brand belongs to Nestle. It is manufactured right out of Nagpur in the MIDC area there in a company called Candico. Candico is your Bakemans. For years, they had their own mint called Minto. And I remember, abhi nahi hai, but Minto ka campaign used to scream, do you have a hole in your head? Then why do you need a hole in your mint? All they did was build a hole in their pockets. Because people wanted the... So, The moral of the story is, if you know how to brand, you can sell nothingness. What's the whole? Nothingness. At 3 times the price of something. That's the moral of the story, and that's the power of branding. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, the whole story. Thank you so very much for being so kind. Thanks.
Hi everybody, good afternoon. I think it was quite a refreshing and didn't really feel that we had lunch. I think it was
Thank you.
it was quite a great session. So I think I'll straight come to the question, Sanjay, that we did talk about the value that lies for the customers. So that brings me to the question that do you think that it's the emotional thing that drives or influences our buying or the decision to buy a certain brand or a particular product? So what do you think about it?
So as I just said, Gerald Zeltman also, meaning there's enough research available today which tells us that most of our buying decisions, we always post-purchase rationalize. But yes, the underlying behavior happened based on certain subconscious emotions. If you can figure those out, and there are so many cases, so many stories. In fact, I do 2-day sessions on this, only on this storytelling of how brands have mastered this and become profitable, successful, etc., etc. But आप कितना भी बोलो, there are products that you buy because of reasons. So when first time Hero Honda came, till then you had in Suzuki. I don't know if you all weren't born then. I'm sure most of you all. So it was in my college times, 83. The two-wheeler revolution started. Okay, उससे पहले बजाज था तो बाप बुक करता था बेटे को गाड़ी मिलती थी. That was the long waiting list. Okay, so in Suzuki was the first one that launched a proper motorcycle collaboration with Suzuki के साथ, and that was a 2-stroke engine doing very well. And we always say that that brands have this something called a great competitive advantage, which is called the first mover advantage. But here comes Hero Honda much later, maybe I think 3 years later, but with a very strong product rational proposition saying this is 4-stroke and therefore you get better mileage. Okay, most Indians who were buying motorcycles then were interested in mileage. So 4-stroke engines give you more mileage, clear reason, and therefore they very quickly overtook in Suzuki and have been leading the market ever since for two-wheelers. Yeah. So there are times when this happens, but yes, most of the times it's emotion, subconscious, which is working on us.
And what about gender pricing structures?
Yeah.
So like, we these days have pink tax and all, right? So what do you think about that? What are there some kind of biases towards that?
So I don't know how many of you all are aware, but this one reel that I did, pink tax, got me where, to a certain extent, where I went later. It was everywhere. Kiran Mazumdar Shaw retweeted it, then NDTV called me up, CNBC, IIB. I was sitting in Nagpur. In fact, I remember I was traveling from Nagpur to Rajasthan to meet a client. En route, they made me stop at some place and said, Abhi aapka live interview karna hai. First time, when a small town guy coming on live television, I didn't know what was happening to me. So that was the reel that I did, which is called Pink Tax. Why? Because, and in fact, my daughter alerted me to it. I wasn't the one. I should give credit to her. She told me, Papa, आपको पता है क्या? हम लोग जो सामान खरीदते हैं, same जो आप खरीदते हो, हमको ज़्यादा charge होता है. I said, ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है? It's a fair marketplace, it's competitive marketplace, capitalism, all that shit. She said, नहीं, आप जाके देखो. So that, I actually went out in the market. I looked at razors. So male razor, X price, a female razor, same jeweled razor, there's no difference at all. Only the color is pink, okay? Is about 50% more expensive. And this is across categories then. And this is across categories. So yes, there is, so this is not a tax that you pay to the government or something. This notioned as pink tax because women end up paying more for the same stuff that guys get. Incidentally, we reversed it, we called it, there's a blue tax too, incidentally, which is basically you all get to enter lounges and discs, etc. Free. Guys have to pay for it, and there are nights when if you have a girl along, you get an entry free. If you're entering as a stag, you pay more. So there's a blue tax also.
Okay. So I think that's, we'll have to kind of come on that kind of a level also, because branding is such a thing that, everybody is quite perception based, and people sometimes don't mind paying that, because of whatever reason. I'll come to the recent incident, the event of Mahakumbh. And I just want to ask that, where people have deep spiritual intents and everything. So what do you think about how can brands make their strategies more authentic and does not look completely a commercial sell?
You want a real answer or you want a made up answer?
The real
Okay,
answer.
I'll tell you what. People, I don't know, this is, I hope, not recorded or whatever. People say India is the biggest democracy. I say India is the biggest hypocrisy. Very honestly. Yeah. Because we tend to live in a, show that we live to certain ethics, morals, etc., etc. Just peep a little deeper and you'll find most of us are flawed. Okay. So the idea is, I know it sounds harsh, but that's the truth. हम मंदिर जाते हैं, what do? कुछ नहीं, हमारी, प्लीज़ डोंट माइंड माई सेइंग दिस, आई नो आई विल बी हर्टिंग अ फ्यू सेंटिमेंट्स हियर. आप जितने वेद उठा के देख लोगे, जितने प्रार्थनाएं उठा, मैं हिंदू हूँ, कि खुद ऐसा नहीं है, कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, ओके, बट वो क्या है, दैट इज ऑल द प्रार्थनाज आर बेसिकली ब्राइबिंग द गॉड, आई विल डू दिस, इतने रुपए का प्रसाद चढ़ाऊंगा, ये करूंगा, जीवन में तेरे गुणगान करूंगा, तू ये कर दे तो. एंड दैट्स वॉट द सेम थिंग विल ब्रिंग टू आवर लाइफ्स टू. And religion, to my mind, is a very spiritual thing. So there's a difference between rituals and there's spiritualism. So I wouldn't want to be on the side of rituals because I don't follow any rituals. Okay, but ultimately the capitalist system is not here to pander to your religious feelings, etc., etc. Okay, if they're doing so, they want their a piece of cake out of that, and that's the only reason. So whether it's a kumbh, wherever, whatever they are doing, it is not some divine kind of activity they are into. It's primarily to make the quick buck. That's about it. So be careful about that. That's it. Very candid answer. I hope it doesn't reach. आजकल बहुत डर लगता है वैसे बोलने में. We talk about free speech, but seriously बहुत डर लगता है.
There are also times that, Sanjay, I feel that there comes every brand has a life cycle, right? So there comes a time that you also feel that it's time for rebranding. What is that life cycle hit for a brand that we feel that it's time that, it should be revisited, or there should be some kind of a revisit to a strategy, or does it happen or it doesn't happen at all?
So a couple of things here. One, if you've seen Lux, right? It's been around for about 90 years, all right? So go back to Devika Rani, मैं तो बहुत सुंदर हूँ ना, मैं लक्स इस्तेमाल करती हूँ, फिल्मी सितारों का सौंदर्य साबुन. That Lux and today's Lux, there is nothing in common between the two. The product formulation has changed, the colors have changed, the packaging has changed, everything has changed. Why does the brand continue to do so well? It contemporizes itself. It ensures it is as relevant to the young girl today as it was 80 years ago. So they don't need any rebranding as such. But yes, it is a very contextual question. In a certain category, you might have a situation where something is completely outdated and you're coming up with completely. So I did a very sarcastic and very strong reel on Jaguar car, all right? They rebranded, but I guess that was their objective, to get so much hate that they become noticeable. So in advertising, we say, whether love me or hate me, don't be indifferent. That's the worst zone you can be in advertising. Yeah. So rebranding ka time aata hai, and then of course you have to ultimately you have to stay relevant to the audience and the context that you exist in. So if you've become outdated, you need to change. I started my advertising career when every piece of art was made by an artist himself, haath se. And I've seen many changes today. And I've kind of been able to, stay on the curve, and therefore I'm here today. People who were with me are no longer there, so you have to constantly reinvent yourself.
And I think a very pertinent topic for today, which is about AI. So, where we are all kind of looking at pacing with AI, and there are enough studies to say that, they have a lot of data where, we can rely on AI for a lot of messaging reads and everything. But, what do you think? Where is that distinction? Where is it that we should finally draw the line and say that this is what AI can do and this is what the communication still remains with the humans to kind of take it on?
So very honestly, any lines we draw will be erased. When things were moving, I'll give you an example. When things were moving from handmade stuff in advertising to what came then was photo typesetting machines. I don't know, I'm sure most of y'all wouldn't have heard of photo typesetting machines. You would type in something, select a font, and you would get on a photo paper, bromide paper, that stuff, all right? So that you would cut and paste. Then came desktop publishers, DTP. And DTPs were then, the DTPs then were very rudimentary kind, so you could see jagged edges and all. So me, in all my wisdom of 35 years, then I was 35, I said, ये कभी phototype setting के बराबर नहीं हो सकता. And look at where we are today. So anyone trying to draw any line would be, as foolish as people then who said, यार ये नहीं चलेगा करके. Because what direction AI is going to take, what is going to happen is, in my opinion, impossible to predict today. Every day we are seeing evolution of something which was not thought of even by the guys who came up with the whole concept of AI. So they are themselves amazed. So that's where we are at this point.
So I think I still have a lot of questions about, because it's such an interesting topic and we always want to know what are the trends ahead and what is it that lies ahead for brands to look out for to increase their profitability and constantly look at reinventing. But I think considering the paucity of time, I think this is such a great and enlightening session. Thanks, Sanjay.
Thanks so much, Pooja. Thanks, so kind of you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay, for your time. And in fact, such an interesting session, and we had to cut short your time, but thank you so much. It was an amazing session. And thank you, Pooja. I request Pooja to please present Sanjay with a Sparkle gift card.